Okay, so we go on to this episode, and I said, "Oh, this one, okay, this one's gonna be all right." Don't speak too soon. Don't speak too soon. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Dahmer. This is the Jeffrey Dahmer story, as told by Ryan Murphy. Listen, as I was saying, listen, I said, okay, we're gonna go into this episode, and I said, this one's cool. We're gonna do a little flashback, all the way back to childhood. We know the story, of how a lot of serial killers are actually when they're children. I said, this one, this be an easy sit through. It's cool. But did I speak too soon? You dang on right. I spoke too soon. Then, child, Ryan Murphy said, "Yeah, right. I'm gonna tell you how he gut punched me when I thought I wasn't looking, and Ryan gave me a." I said, "Oh, geez, here we go." Anyway, but we start this one off. This is episode 2. This is actually entitled "Please Don't Go." Please don't go. I said, okay, makes sense. But here's the thing: 2 pieces of tea got dropped while we were still, because we start right back up in 1991 where we left off, where Jeffrey's been captured and that kind of thing. And then 2 pieces of tea dropped out right before we did our flashback. And here it was, Jeffrey, and I didn't know this, he was actually a convicted sex offender and was out on parole. He also waived the right to an attorney right from the beginning. Now, that works right into play with what I was saying on my last review of how I think that narcissism in him was kicked in high gear. It was like, listen, let me show you what I've gotten away with right in your face. I've played in you all's face, and let me show you what I did. That's that serial killer narcissism, which is sick, 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 and it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, but that's what I've seen in that. Now we flash back to 1966. Jeffrey was 6 years old at the time. We see him coming home from school, and he just looked like any other little kid, and of course he is the little nerdy little glasses, but still looked like a smart kid, nothing too out of place. Soon as he goes in the house, things been dysfunctional from the gate for this little boy. 6 years old. He comes in and he has a sibling, and I believe it's a girl, but the baby is just screaming its head off. He's hollering for the mother. He go back in the room. She out of it on the bed. She didn't OD'd. She didn't OD'd. And then we get to see right away the dysfunction of the family because the father comes in. She didn't OD. There's pills and stuff on the bed. Jeffrey, before any of that happened, before he even called the police or anything, he goes over and touches her. And I said, see, there was something off there because if you've ever seen anybody OD, they're foaming at the mouth and they got it all going on, and you ain't really apt to go touching. Especially being a 6 year old, even if it's your mama, you're like, you don't look too good. You know what I mean? But he touching. I said, okay, little Jeffrey. But he ends up calling the police and everything, and 911 and all that. Did what he needed to do. His father comes home, and right then is when I seen the dysfunction in the home. The father literally is claiming that the mother is just doing a cry for attention. He literally, when he came in that car, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you really did it. Did you do it this time? Did she die? Did she?" I mean, just out of order. Just out of order. Father was just as I said, what kind of that bravado? I took issue with that bravado. Now, remember from the last review, I was already saying I've been looking at the father crazy because when he wouldn't even allow himself to break, I said, some of the issue is you. Because he immediately went to blaming. Oh, it might have been this. Oh, it was probably that. But never nothing that he did. In this episode, you played as much a part in Jeffrey being who he grew up to be as everyone else around him. You had a part in this too, sir. You did. Anyway, we're gonna talk. Okay, so we see, kids come back then, they giving the teacher an apple and all that. Jeffrey had caught these fish himself out of this little stream, and he gave the fish to the teacher. It's a whole little jar, like a big mason jar full of these fish. And she kind of looked like, okay, no tact at all. And another student came up. She ends up telling the student, he said, why'd he give you that? And she said, I don't know. He's weird. I said, see, this, I tell you all this about adults all the time. I've always had this different outlook. I don't always believe what adults say when it comes to children. I always, with my boys, I listen to everything that they're saying. I don't just automatically take an adult's word for it. I want to know all the details, and then I'll decide where to go with the story. You know your children, and you need to know that adults will lie. Adults will spin narratives, and adults don't always be mature. That's the biggest thing, because she was very immature, speaking to that child as if that child was her peer, speaking negatively about another child. She was out of order. I don't know, he's weird. Who says that to a child about another child while you're telling them, I know you be bullying on him. You need not be bullying on him. You said in mixed messages, ma'am. You are all the way out of order, but that's a whole nother story for another time. But anyway, then she went and gave the fish to the other student. If that student was all just think, people, if this student is already giving that student a hard time, this child came and gave you something heartfelt he wanted you to have, and you gave it to the student that been picking at him already. You thought that wasn't gonna get back to him? First thing he did was made sure that Jeffrey knew that he had him. And baby, he was heated. And that's where we actually see for the first time this inside anger. He's screaming, no, no, they're not yours. This, that. I was like, okay. So I'm thinking to myself right then, I said, baby, somebody gonna pay. They're gonna pay on the front end or they're gonna pay on the back end. So, but this is just goes to show the twist in the mind. So I'm thinking as we go forth, I said either the little boy gonna pay or the teacher gonna pay. But no, 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 no. See, Mr. Dahmer, his mind is completely twisted, as we found going forward. His mind is completely twisted. Like 35 years later, we found out that mind is all over the place. All over the place. Well, no, that's 25 years. It was 25 years later. But anyway, he basically went on a little stalk. He then followed the little boy home, follows the little boy. Basically, people used to have their doors open back then. Walked on in their house, unseen, unheard, stole the fish back. But you see just the movements. These are the early movements of someone that you don't need to be playing with. He went in their house, complete, just literally, I mean, boldly went in their house without a care in the world, stole the fish back. Then he took the fish back to the stream. And I said, okay, so I guess he says, you know what? If you don't want them, I'm gonna go on and put them back where I got them from. And to hell with you, you just don't get them. But no, see, the twist of the mind, I don't know. He had that anger, But now you're angry about something, but you're going to take the anger out on the fish. The fish had absolutely nothing to do with it. See, the twist was going on all the way back in 66. He poured motor oil into the mason jar with the fish. Baby, the fish ain't did nothing to nobody. The little boy pissed you off and the teacher pissed you off. Why the fish gotta die? And you made that decision. Like it was thought out. That just showed. I don't know if everybody caught it. I caught it. It showed this twist of his mind. And the I mean, you're making someone pay that literally has nothing to do with anything that was going on. You got pissed off at the teacher and the little boy. So you go kill the fish. A small thing, but a big thing. And 25 years later, we really realize how big of an issue that really is and was and became. Anyway, so that was that. Then we start to see some stuff that was sort of like breeding. It was like breeding bad behavior. And the father didn't even realize he was doing it, I don't think, because the father has some little stuff too. In my opinion, we start seeing, and I say breeding and grooming. It was a bit of grooming as well. I hate to use that word because people like to use that word a lot when it comes to like molestation, but there you can be groomed and it's not a sexual nature at all. But I felt like the father was grooming him into, I don't think he knew he was doing it though. I think he was just kind of some of his little stuff, the way he thought about things was a little bit off, and he didn't really realize it was an issue. But I saw it as an issue. But anyway, we see right away he's amazed at this dead possum. They found this dead possum up underneath the house, and the possum had been. He told him, the possum had been attacked, and it had a hole in the head, and this, that, and the other. The father was all into. It was too much detail to the fact that there was a dead possum under the house. And they went so deep into how and why and when and all this kind of stuff. And then we see he wanted to touch it. Everybody knows you don't touch a possum, period, because they carry rabies. So you don't touch it. And he's like, just make sure you wash your hands. So the father was a little, for me, I said, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. What you fostering in? And then we watched as the father pretty much, Jeffrey was obsessed with the bones. He was obsessed with the bones. It showed up right away. Like you could see it. That would have startled me. I would have picked up on that right away and been like, what's up? Like, seriously, what's up? But he was obsessed with these bones. Then the dad basically fathered and fostered in this love he had of dead things. He was becoming amazed with dead things. But the more the father talked, it seems as though he was amazed with dead things. Like, all of this kind of stuff. He talked to him about a lobotomy being done on a frog. I mean, we've all gone through school and we did the whole thing where you got to dissect the frog. Baby, I didn't do it. I said, no, 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 no. That's one F I'll take. Do you got some extra credit that I could do? Because I'm not getting ready to do no cutting. The only cutting I'm going to ever do is if I be forced into a position where it's me or you, and I got to get you up off of me. Then I'll cut you if I have to, but just voluntarily cutting on stuff, I ain't never been down with that. I don't want to cut nothing. Listen, I don't ever want to hurt anybody. I don't. I don't ever want to hurt anybody or anything, but don't push me. If I got to get you, then I will get you. I ain't got a problem with it. I'll do what I need to do because my main thing is staying on the planet. I plan to stay here until it's time for me to go, and you don't get the chance to tell me when it's time for me to go. So yeah, I would cut you if I had to, but just voluntarily wanting to cut, so I ain't never felt that, and I've never did it. I never did it when we did the first. I told I'll take a F or whatever I got to do. I'm smart, so I ain't really worried about it. That F ain't gonna take me out of the game. I'll take the F for that. I ain't cutting. First of all, I ain't touching no frog. I told you I don't do nothing reptilian, but I definitely ain't cutting it. I'm not doing that. But the father went is into all that. And yeah, they did that in school. But then when he started telling them about doing a lobotomy, basically, and he was walking through the steps, I was like, you are fostering in some extra that he don't need. He really don't need. But I said, okay. So listen, let's go back. Let's go forward. It's Miami, 1981. I got a little switched around because they didn't give us the rest of the story. They just said he had been discharged from the program or wherever he was, and he was actually in Miami. Okay. And you could see he had this love of cutting meat, raw meat, dealing with raw meat. He just had like a love of it. And as we go forward, we found out that he's has a whole little cannibalism thing going on too. But he was just obsessed with like raw meat and the cutting. He's like, oh, I love it. He's sitting there cutting lunch meat. He loves cutting lunch meat. But okay, so he just got a lot of little stuff going on. He's drinking heavy, and then we see him talk to his dad, and he's begging his dad on the phone, can I please come home? And he's crying. And I felt really bad for him. He just, he, for whatever reason, he had to leave Milwaukee and he ended up there. He said, he said, Dad, you're the one that said I need to get out and see the world, this, that, and the other. He's like, every time you call, you're like, you're drinking and you're slurring and this, that, thing, and the other when you're not working and whatever, whatever. But anyway, the dad actually seen, you can hear that there were some issues. So he let him come back, but he could not, and he wasn't with the mother at the time. The dad wasn't with the mother at the time. He was done. He had left the mother. And he told him, he said, you can't, basically, you can't stay with us. You can stay with your grandma, which is the dad's mother. I believe it was the father's mother. Yeah. So he goes there and he stays with the grandma, child, and some of his little behaviors were coming out. Like the grandma was like, you don't always have to have dinner with me, Jeffrey. I mean, it's sweet that you want to do it, but you don't have to have dinner with me. You should be out with young people. Find you a nice girl, this, that, and the other. And then that's when we started to see some of his sexuality coming out. He ends up, the man he works with told him, Jeffrey, why do you have that t-shirt on? I told you, no t-shirts, you wear a white shirt. That's back in the day. Butchers always wore white shirts. I don't know why butchers always got to wear white shirts, because they be looking a damn mess, because butchers deal with raw meat and stuff all day. It'd be filthy. But anyway, you wore a white shirt. And he went to the department store to get this white shirt. And as he gets his shirt, he's noticing one of the employees dressing the mannequin. And he's looking at it, and it's a male form mannequin. And you could tell, like, it really caught his eye because it was undressed. And he just really, I said, baby, he just felt a rise in his shorts, honey. And it just stopped him in his tracks. And it was a beautiful mannequin. It was a silver mannequin. He ends up going and he hides in he didn't leave the store. He hid in a stall, like until the store actually closed. And then he literally stole the mannequin, got a bag, broke it down. I said, look at all of this playing out. Broke it down, because you break a mannequin down, it's just like breaking down a body, putting it in a bag and taking it on. And they clunky, and I got one. Y'all know I got a mannequin right downstairs in my basement. It's a full mannequin. She's taller than me. She's beautiful, but she's 6'1", and she's taller than me. But they're real clunky, and they're heavy, and they're awkward to carry. But yeah, he broke it down, put it in a plastic bag, baby, in a garbage bag, and stole it right on up out of the store. And then we see him in his room, and he's playing this thing out, and it's this male form. He literally puts it together, puts it in the bed, and he is literally laying up with this mannequin. He's all in his head. His mind is just twisted. He's all up in here, and he's feeling it. He's laying up with this mannequin. And then we see him get ready to leave, and he tells his grandma basically not to go in his room. Just leave my sheets. I like to change my own sheets, everything. Just leave my sheets outside the door, grandma. I'll get them. He leaves on out for work or whatever. And then we see the grandma. She, grandma's is nappy child. Mine was anyway. She great said was his because she went on in the room, baby. She opened up the thing. Looked like somebody laying up in the bed, child. And look, and he said, well, what's going on, child? Go over there. And grandma pulls the covers down. And it's like, what in the world? And it just kind of cut right there. We just seen grandma's face. So I'm thinking grandma seen the mannequin and was like, what the hell's really going on? But it cut right there. And then we actually see a black boy, a little black boy. Well, not a little boy, he's a little black boy, he's a teenager, laying face down. And we done moved back into like the present time. It's 1991 now. We've moved back to 1991 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there's this black boy literally face down dead in the bed, in that bed that we saw with the blood stains. And he's down, stripped down to his underwear, dead in the bed. Um, a whole mess, a whole mess. And then I said, okay, so here we go. I said, I guess we're done with the past. That was a little gut punch. Well, it wasn't, I hadn't been gut punched yet, but I was like, oh God, here we go again. So we get ready to tell the story of another one of the victims. I said, I get myself together because I know we get ready to do what Ryan does now. Then we actually see this. Here's the gut punch. We literally see him basically pick up an underage Asian boy outside of a liquor store. Always so bold and brazen. You actually came on to and yanked him up right there. There were other kids out there. I mean, you're right. He was so narcissistic. He would play this game right in the faces of others, like just doing it. I mean, it was a lot. But the little boy's 14. He ends up taking him back to the place. He bought him this Boone's Farm, whatever was what he told me about Boone's Farm. Takes him on back to the place, talking about all this, taking pictures and all of this stuff. And he tells him, this is where some things start to connect. He says, you don't know who I am. They start drinking and stuff a little bit. And he tells him, you don't know who I am, do you? And he's like, what do you mean? He said, man, you got arrested for taking pictures and some other stuff of my brother. And I said, oh, he said, you went to jail and everything. And he's like, oh. And he said, so if I did some other stuff, whatever other stuff is, because he told me your brother lied to the cops, this, that thing, and on the other, and I got all in trouble and stuff. He said, if I'm so bad, I'm such a bad man, what are you doing here? And he said, hey, my family needs the money, and you offered me $100. So he was getting ready to, he's like, I'm just, whatever. So they're going back and forth about this money. He says, you're going to give me the money and give me the money now. Give me the money now. And he's like, I'll give you some of the money here. Here's $23 now. And then I'll give you the rest when we're done. So whatever. So he ended up drugging him. He get him the little drink. And he said, we just going to chug this. I'm going to chug this beer. I know this ain't what you asked for. This is strawberry something. He didn't drug him. Gets him to chug the stuff down. This boy's trying to make this money or whatever. And he has these Halloween contact lenses. They're like whitish. So they have like this scary effect to them. It looks real zombie-ish or something. And he's talking to the boy. And the boy's like really drugged up. And he's down to his underwear. And he's just being out of order. This is the gut punch. All of this just made me so queasy. I was like, oh, this is too much. And then this is when we go back. This is where all of what we watched earlier all made sense, because now he done sat up here and did an old nasty piece of homemade lobotomy, like his father explained. I mean, followed it to a T. What his father had explained to him, how they performed the lobotomy on the frog. He did it to this boy while he was drugged up. And he said, oh, okay, good. So you didn't die, this, that, and the other from the drug and all that. And the boy wakes up and he's like, he can't really talk, sense. And the boy ends up making his way out of the apartment. And Jeffrey's actually coming back from the store, and he hears some talking. He going to get some more drinks from the beer place. He come back and he sees there's the neighbor, and the neighbor's name, her name is Glenda Cleveland. That's the part that Niecy Nash is playing. So Glenda's out there, and there's two other African American women, and they're trying to help the boy and trying to get some clarity because the boy ain't got no clothes on. When he was coming down the hallway, people was like, man, you ain't got no clothes on or whatever. So he had made it down to the front steps and he's just talking gibberish. The cops are actually there as well. This is where it just was crazy. They're basically, it was like, oh, like white privilege. All right, here we go. Listen, don't get upset, you all. It just is what it is. I'm calling these things out as for what it was. This is 1991. You're living in this place in the hood. The cops even actually asked Jeffrey, why are you living here? You know, they call this crack alley or whatever. You're living in this place with these black folks. And again, sticking out like a sore thumb. And they're basically ignoring all these signs of foul play. There's this thing back and forth. Glenda keeps saying, well, this is a child. Do you know how old he is? Jeffrey comes and says, he's my boyfriend. He's always using the disdain that people have for homosexuality as a shield. They don't want to be involved. The cops know that they can't treat you badly, but they could just, don't want to be bothered. Okay, so it's these gays again, and they don't want to get involved. They basically went through all that. He used the gay thing, and he basically was not listening to these black women. They used the gay thing and the white privilege. The cops literally went as far as to take the boy back inside. They literally took him back inside. They helped Jeffrey take the boy back inside. And he kept doing it. He kept throwing the gay stuff lingo out again and all of that. They said something about the smell. He's talking about the meat story again, about these pork chops that went bad and this, that thing, and the other. And the cops asked to come in and look around. He says, oh, okay, fine, go ahead. He was ready. Again, this is 91. He's making crazy mistakes, like crazy narcissistic movements and judgments, and people keep getting out of this apartment and different things. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like he just living on the edge. And the black boy that was dead on the mattress, he laying on the floor in the room. The cop was standing right there. This is the crazy part. You're never doing a thorough anything. They've been in this house multiple times. You smelled stuff. You're not doing no thorough inspection of nothing because they throw out the gay stuff and using the white privilege, and they're just like, okay, whatever. Okay, let's get on up out of here. It's just a lover's quarrel or whatever. Let them figure it out, because in that time, we don't give a shit about them gays. Let them do whatever they're going to do. We don't want to be involved. They even made reference to, yeah, me and my partner don't want to catch anything. Remember, 91. So there's still all that stigma about HIV and AIDS and all of this. And just rude and just ignorant and just literally not doing your job for all your own personal stupidness is what was actually going on. It's just bad. It was just bad. But anyway, then when the scene actually ends, now you've become a liability. And here it is. You just hear this drilling sound. He took and put him down. Put him down with the drill. And then as we end this episode, with an actual call. It's an actual call hours later after that happened from Glenda, the real Glenda Cleveland. They played the actual call, which was made May 27th, 1991 at 2:25 a.m. And literally you hear Glenda talking back and forth with the police. She kept asking them about the age of the child. They were literally blowing her off. Literally, I mean, just blowing her off. It was true negligence on the part of the police. And I don't even know a better way to say it. It was just negligence. It was a mess. But that's how this episode ended. So yeah, when I thought it was going to be cool, no, it wasn't cool. That was a 14-year-old. That was one old gut punch. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And again, he almost got out. But again, he had done messed him up. You done did some old cock and bull damn operation on the boy and did a damn lobotomy. They used to do that mess way, way back, early on gay people and stuff, all that old stupidness. Anyway, listen, that's enough for right now. This is it for episode 2, which was actually called Please Don't Go. And that was kind of, all wrapped around the whole thing. He was always begging the father not to leave the family, but he did leave the family. And remember when the father said 18 is when the actual divorce took place, and Jeffrey took it really hard. That was in that time when he was in Miami in 1981. That divorce had already taken place. His dad had then taken up with another woman and all of that, and the dad basically didn't want nothing to do with him. Put him off on the grandmother and all that, and his off behavior was just developing like full bloom in that time, and then struggles with his sexuality and things of that nature, just spiraling. He was beginning to spiral at that point, and that drinking, he had started up that drinking. Just terrible. Just terrible. Anyway, listen, that's it for episode 2. I will catch you all on the next episode. Definitely leave me some comments. Let me know how you're doing at this point. Are you still with me? Are you still hanging with me? What are your thoughts so far? All right, guys.